You're on.
All right, welcome. Just getting my owns on here. This is the Genesee County Compassion Club Show. Thanks for joining me today on FlintTalkRadio.com. Check us out on Ustream.tv. If you have questions, call in at 810-208-1854. It's good to be with you guys today. It's a chilly day out there in Flint. It's about 40 degrees, and it looks like it's going to get cold tonight. So bundle up. Man, we got snow on the ground, John. What do you think about that?
Well, it's November. I'm not appreciative of it. I would never, if I never saw snow again, I wouldn't grieve too much.
You live in the wrong state then.
You know, I think it's a cruel joke. I mean, I'm a summer person. You know, we have 3 months out of the year that's really actually worth living in for the weather-wise. And 5 months of the year, it's miserable.
That's what I'm saying. You're in the wrong state.
Definitely.
Well, let's see. That leaves 4 months, though. What about the other 4?
Let's see. Yeah, they're hit or miss.
Mediocre.
Yeah, it's like it depends on the year. Some springs are really wet. Some springs are all dry.
Yeah.
And the wet, when it's wet, it's sopping wet. It's almost like tropical wet. You know?
Yeah, we turned into swamp state.
I remember one time on vacation up in Traverse City when I was a kid, and it rained for 3 solid weeks. 3 solid days. You know, 3 solid weeks of days, nothing but rain. And when I see it now, I just have this reaction about it.
That was your summer vacation?
Yeah, it was a summer vacation.
Oh, man.
I don't know why my dad didn't want to break camp, but we set up in the rain, and when we tore down in the rain. It was so wet, we had to bring everything home to set up.
Had to set it back up so it wouldn't get all moldy.
It was horrible.
Yeah.
3 solid weeks of rain. I mean, and no matter where we had a tent camper, you know, those canvas covered it. Mm-hmm. And no matter where I slept in the damn thing, I got wet.
Oh, yeah.
It started leaking.
No waterproofing to that at all.
Well, it had waterproofing, but it was just after so long, it just was so saturated, it was gone, you know.
Doesn't work anymore.
So anyway.
Well, this is one of those old tents where if you touch anything on the side, the water pours through.
Right.
Yeah.
That's basically what it's here. Because, I mean, but it was one of those, my dad reacted, he went out and got a vinyl covering that when we set the tent up, the camper up, we'd put that over the top and strap it down, and it saved us a lot. But after 3 weeks of rain, I think I was turning moldy or into a duck.
Yeah. Well, it got cold quick here.
Going on, you know?
Yeah. Some summer vacation, huh? Yeah. It got cold quick here. I mean, it was, we had fall weather, and then all of a sudden, boom, snow. So I even heard that Mount Holly here in Michigan's possibly opening up tonight for their first runs.
You know what's always disconcerting about Mount Holly? And I hope this doesn't kill any chance for sponsorship, but you ever notice there's a cemetery right at the bottom of it?
Yeah, I think it's over to the left-hand side
right.
there.
Yeah, so that's very disconcerting.
Well, it's not like you see it when you're going down the hill. You know?
Right.
You're just
it's
looking
like,
at the lodge.
It's right there. I mean, they don't have long far to take you, you know.
I don't think you'll get enough speed to make it to the cemetery.
Scrape you off one of the trees and we'll put you in there, though. You know?
There you go. There you go. Pick you up after you crumpled. Thankfully, they didn't take me there when I fell down.
Yeah, you were messed up.
Yeah, that happens.
But you broke your arm?
Broke my wrist and my leg same time.
Yep, that's like that. You know, one more, you could have the trifecta, you know?
Yeah. Oh, I dislocated my wrist, too, so I don't know. Does that count? It's trifecta?
It's a trifecta, yeah.
I got a trifecta of a bill, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's like probably $50,000.
That's insane. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't have health insurance. You just get the bill. So, anyways, yeah, it certainly has gotten cold outside. All you outdoor growers certainly better have your stuff in by now, or it's plumb frozen. Might as well just turn it into hash or something. But it's the weather has changed, and looks like we are headed for winter, no doubt. We do have some medical marijuana news for you today I want to share with you. Got some things going down at the Genesee County Compassion Club. I know that it's been a wonderful time down there. We've had our fall festivities going on. And right now we've got our fall food drive happening. So we're asking that all members, if you could, when you enter in the club during the month of November, bring either a canned food item, either or $1. And all those funds will be going to help out the local soup kitchen here in Flint, which we regularly participate at. And I know we've got another soup kitchen day coming up here at the end of the month. So we could use your help for that as well. If you'd like to volunteer, it's always a good time to serve. And that happens right there at Flint's North End Soup Kitchen. So definitely want to give a shout out to that. And thank you for all of our members who are volunteering. I'm seeing a nice pile of cans down there at the club and a little stack of money. So every little bit helps. We certainly do appreciate all our members chipping in and helping out with that effort. Other than that, I think that's about it for activities at the club. I know that we have our regular hash lab going on, so if you want to do some processing, we can help you out with that. And we got our day-to-day activities. Got our late nights happening on Fridays still. We're open until 9 p.m., so stop by if you can. We'd love to see you. Got some interesting medical news here I wanted to share with you. different reports that have come out here in the last week about medical marijuana. And this one here is kind of interesting. This is a study finding more evidence that marijuana is helpful in PTSD victims. This is research from actually scientists from the University of Michigan, also Harvard Medical School, and the University of Illinois have confirmed that THC affects the storage and extinction of fearful memories in human subjects. So I think we could all attest, those of us that have used cannabis, that it does affect your memory. There's always been the jokes about, having no short-term memory or just having plain memory loss. But, there's an interesting report here. It does help out people who need to rid themselves of some of those more traumatic memories. And it certainly helps alleviate the stress that goes along with those. And I know that also it helps people with having sleep disorders. It can be sometimes associated with PTSD, allowing them to get the rest that they need. It says here in the study, the researchers performed brain scans on 14 different healthy individuals who were given Marinol, which is a THC pill. And after 24 hours, people who received this increased activity in the areas of the brain involved with overcoming those past negative memories. So kind of interesting. I mean, that's pretty cool. It says animal studies support a role of cannabinoids in overcoming bad memories. And the authors note the study was the first to show this effect in humans. So kind of neat. You got studies going on actually right here at the University of Michigan, also over in Harvard and the University of Illinois. But, they were given Marinol. This wasn't the plant in whole. It wasn't anything other than the cannabinoid THC. Obviously, it's the only thing that's contained in Marinol. But even with that limited access there, they were still able to have some positive results in overcoming or helping overcome this PTSD syndrome. So I'd like to see some more of that research going on. It's at least it's being conducted. I think that's a good thing. I'd like to see it happen with the full compound and also using plant matter as a basis for the study. But at any rate, we'll take that one. That was a good find there, and I think that most people that have used cannabis for other treatments have found that it also does help with PTSD. We're still waiting to hear on the state panel that was formed here back this summer about adding PTSD as a qualifying condition for medical marijuana here in the state of Michigan. We don't have an answer yet from that panel. We're still waiting to hear back on that. But yet, even so, as this panel is convening and is going on, making their decisions, we're starting to get more information come back from these universities telling about how this is helpful. And I know that's one of the things that the people on the panel, the physicians that were included, were looking for was evidence, evidence that was done in a scientific manner, studies that were performed, something that they could refer to in helping them make their decision other than just the anecdotal evidence that was conveyed at the conference.
I was thinking too, though. I mean, it's the guys from the post Vietnam War era. A lot of them I knew self-medicated with marijuana, and a lot of people look down on that. But I think it's it might just be a case that where they found that was effective for them, and they reported the anecdotal information, and they found out that how are medical discoveries found? It's usually serendipitous, or because they're aiming at something and found like the Rogaine. It was actually supposed to be a blood pressure lowering medicine, and they found it actually helped grow hair. So it was an incidental, totally serendipitous, finding. So it's one of those things where basically the research was well done by people, but it wasn't considered legitimate. But when it comes to pain, when it comes to feelings of depression or anything, there's no way to actually put that in, to actually view that like a heart rate or brain activity.
Sure.
It really isn't,
Well, in that study there, it says they were actually able to monitor the brain activity in the study. So I don't know if they're using MRI scans or something like this, but or what other types of materials or references they had available to them. But it is, I think a lot of that research does have to stem from initially from anecdotal evidence, and then it's sometimes already been proven that way, but just simply backed up by scientific research. And unfortunately, that's kind of the way that we've gone. Is we're really not taking people's word for it anymore. We want to be able to see exactly how it works with evidence, scientific evidence. And to a degree, that's obviously a good thing. So, but it's nice to see at least it's being performed. I think, John, you're right. A lot of times we find those things out there just by people talking, saying, hey, I used this, didn't know that it was going to actually help for this as well. And, that's what we're finding out with cannabis is, people aren't allowed here in Michigan to be approved for medicinal cannabis just for PTSD. But we have a lot of people that are veterans and victims of traumatic crime that have used cannabis for other types of ailments and then found out that, hey, this actually helps out with this other symptom that I experience as well.
And besides, I mean, if you just look at the lack of indication that there's any considerable damage done to somebody through use of marijuana, I think that should be okay, even if somebody's just using it as a recreational drug, not advocating it, but even if they are. You just got to look at the cost-benefit analysis of society, and that's what generally laws are supposed to be based on. There's supposed to be a reason why we're passing laws, other than just being punitive.
Sure.
And that's exactly what it's about. Because if there is no damage being done, it's not going to destroy the fabric of society or anything else, then why is this resisted at every damn level, not by the medical community so much, but by the legislators? Why? Because they see ability to tax this, and the power to tax is the power to destroy, and also the power to control. And they can control who gets it by the level of taxation they put up on something.
Well, and I think control is the main thing that they're looking for there, certainly since it's been so heavily controlled in the past. Yeah, no question there, John. I mean, definitely they want to be able to have their hands wrapped around this very tightly. We're going to talk more about that here later on. We've got the Senate bill that went through in front of the Senate floor today. But before we get to that, I got a few other things I want to share with you. There's interesting information here we found about vaporizing. I know a lot of people I've seen recently are vaporizing more and more. It's becoming more the popular way to medicate using medical cannabis. And we've known for quite a while that this certainly seems to be a healthier alternative to outright smoking. Vaporizing removes approximately 95% of the smoke that is inhaled in comparison to just regular smoking. And obviously this is a better way for people to use their medication, a healthier way. And it still produces some of the carcinogens and the tars that are associated with the smoke, but not nearly as much, obviously, with having 95% of the smoke being removed. It seems to be a little bit better way of also being able to dose. You're able to monitor your dosage a lot more stringently when using a vaporizer. There's various types of vaporizers out there on the market. I think a lot of people are familiar with the Volcano model, which is one type of way. There's also a couple other similar types of models to the Volcano, where just simply there's a heating element and it heats up the plant matter. That's dispelled into either some type of a collection chamber or a tube. The person is able to inhale that and then be able to medicate from there. Also, some of the vapors that are converted, when the plant matter is combusted or heated up through a vaporizer, the medicine that is available in the plant obviously has to transfer into that smoke or into the vapor. And a collaborative study that was conducted by California Normal and MAPS found that vaporizers were able to convert 46% of the available medicine into vapor, whereas the average joint or marijuana cigarette was only able to convert less than 25%. So not only may it be a more healthy or a healthier way of medicating, but also a more effective way, being that you're able to get more of the medicine into the vapor than you are in just the smoke. So again, being able to dose is a very important thing when you're taking your medication, making sure you're not getting too much, making sure you are getting enough. And with the vaporizer, you have a better control on how much vapor is being emitted simply by turning the unit on or controlling your inhale. But also the amount that is available in there is more readily available because of the method used to heat it. The lower amount of temperature has lower smoke in it.
So like any kind of medication too, somebody takes like a pill form, there's a loss there too. They don't get the cell. I mean, they have a dosage, but it's lost. A lot of it's lost in the body somewhere somehow.
A lot of people don't realize that when you do take any type of medication or even vitamins in a pill form, that very little amount of that is actually able to be absorbed into the digestive system. A lot of times these are just passed on through the body, and only a small amount of what's actually there is actually in the bloodstream at the end of the day. And of course this varies with different types of capsules that are given or forms that the medicine is housed in, but it also depends on the person's digestive system. So it really can vary from patient to patient. That's why there's usually, if even on a prescription bottle, you'll see it'll have a variance of how many you're supposed to take or how often you're supposed to ingest them. And this is because it's always going to have a variance based on the individual that's ingesting that medication. And cannabis is no different. If it was to be given in a pill form, simply there, you have the same types of variables going on with, what type of capsule is it put in, and then also what is that person going to be able to actually process through their digestive system. And I think personally that the digestive system is probably the better way and even superior to a vaporizer. You're able to get more of that into your bloodstream, and also the way that it works within the body, when it works through your pancreas and through your kidneys and your liver, comes out a little bit differently than when it would as if you were smoking or vaporizing. So I think ingestion probably is farly the most superior way of ingesting the medicine, but obviously people do like to have the relief of the quick onset that is delivered through vapor or smoke. So sometimes I think the best method there would be a combination of the two, whereas someone can take an ingested method, through their digestive tract, and then also ingest through a vaporizer or through smoking, and then they're able to get that immediate relief, but then also the stronger relief that they need for their ailments. And the reaction is going to widely vary from person to person, so it's important that you're really monitoring your dosing, and that way you can figure out what's going to work best for you. But at any rate, lots of different vaporizers out there. Some of the other ones out there look very similar to like a pen item or the e-cigarettes that you've seen. Those are also being used quite frequently now. And the other nice thing about vaporizing is it doesn't have the same smell to it as to when someone is burning a cigarette. It doesn't have the same type of aroma about it, and so it can be a little bit more discreet. And it's certainly when it's in the pen form, if you've seen those are very discreet. It just looks like you're holding a pen. So I got some other information here for you. There's a graph I saw online. This is from leafscience.com. It's the consequences of marijuana versus the legal drugs, and and we're talking about obviously marijuana both as medicine and a recreational drug, and then being that referred to or compared to illegal drugs. And there's some interesting facts here that fatality risk here. I'm reading from the graph. This is deaths attributed to various drugs between 1997 and 2005. Adderall, which is to treat narcolepsy and controlled hyperactivity. There's 54 deaths resulting in the use of Adderall. Ritalin, used to treat ADD and ADHD, 121 deaths associated with that. Wellbutrin, 1,132 deaths, which Wellbutrin is used to treat depression and anxiety. And then Viagra, interesting one here, one of the higher ones on this graph, 2,254 deaths associated to Viagra.
They were passing that stuff on like M&Ms. When it first came out and it was approved, you saw so many commercials for it. You still do. You see Alice and all those others.
So you still see quite a few commercials for that. And I think now there's a number of other products out there that are similar to Viagra. Right. Cialis is one of the ones I've heard about, and some of the other types of products. But it's not the only one on the market. And obviously this is something that has to do with blood flow. I'm not saying that cannabis is going to have the same effect as Viagra, but it can definitely be an aphrodisiac. And then, of course, we have marijuana, which has never had any deaths associated to it.
Which strain would be really good for that? Would it be like indica or a sativa variety?
I would probably recommend something more of a sativa variety.
Which is more buoyant, so it causes you more buoyant.
It's more of a cerebral type of uplifting effect versus the indica, which can be more of a relaxation, calming type of a thing. It's going to depend on the individual and how it works for them. But, if someone's trying to get their excitement up, probably the sativa would be the better route to go with that. These are regular drugs that you wouldn't really necessarily associate it with being dangerous. I mean, Viagra, you would think, well, how is that going to kill somebody? Well, it apparently did.
It increased blood pressure. I mean, anything vascular and stuff, is going to be affected by
it.
And
that had the highest amount there. But, something like Ritalin, you wouldn't think that would be associated with too many deaths. And we had 121 deaths from Ritalin.
I would probably think that would probably be really rough on the liver. I don't know how it's metabolized. I heard something bad about it years ago because they wanted to put me on Ritalin when I was a kid in elementary school. And they thought I was hyperactive because I didn't sit still, So they just wanted a bunch of drugged out kids, So my mom balked at that, and I didn't get doped up.
And you made it through okay?
Yeah, it's actually one of our family.
Did you graduate?
Yeah, great. One of our family doctor examined me and stuff. He goes, well, he said, why are they saying this? And they said because he wants to do his own stuff. He doesn't want to listen to teachers. And he goes, and he asked questions a lot. I mean, he said, I got a kid just like that. Well, evidently there's nothing wrong with his son because he grew up becoming an osteopathic doctor himself. So there's something there. I mean, so that's basically, I mean, they just overprescribe medications in this culture. They really do.
Well, you wouldn't sit still and you ask too many questions, John. You're just supposed to sit there and do your schoolwork. How dare you have questions in school?
That's like, besides zero, I mean, I should have been like above class, but they didn't want to put me in there because they didn't test me. They just thought I was being a jerk. Well, I was actually scored higher than everybody else in that group. I was like way functioning higher, and they kept me in the same classroom. Well, I wasn't. I was bored. I mean, there was only one subject that I didn't do well, and it was math. The rest of it, I was like a ninth grade, writing level when I was in the fourth grade or something like that. Yeah. So, I mean, I was like, I should have been out of there.
You should have been out of there. Well, they were trying to take you out of there, put you in zombie mode.
Yeah, it's a good thing my mom resisted.
Absolutely. I think a lot of times these things are overprescribed, used as scapegoats, if you will, or just something to appease the masses. And obviously there's a certain danger that's associated with them. You have deaths being caused by this. Who knows what else was caused by these types of drugs being prescribed. In certain cases, maybe they are the right choice, but I think a lot of times it's probably a little bit too pushed too heavily, I believe. All right, there's some other ones on here. Antispasmodics, 118 deaths attributed to that between 1997 and 2005. Antiemetics, 196. Antipsychotics, 1,593 deaths. And, of course, marijuana, 0 again. Now we have everybody's favorite drugs, alcohol and tobacco, which are the most widely used here in America, of course. 39,701 deaths associated to alcohol use through those years, again, through 07 to 2005. Tobacco use, 443,000 deaths associated to that. So pretty astounding facts there. Again, marijuana, 0, and it is one of the safer alternatives to either these drugs, whether they be prescribed as medication or used as a recreational form. Marijuana certainly seems to be the safer choice in comparison. And I think that's something to take into account when we're talking about future regulation here regarding marijuana. So kind of something to consider. All right, some other information here. This has been big news on the Facebook, Twitter, so on. This is big money coming in here to Michigan, and they're looking to get this bill pushed through as quickly as possible. I even heard that this bill is going to be in front of the Senate floor today in Michigan, and this is Senate Bill SB, I think it's SB 566. Forgive me if I have the number incorrect there, though. Any rate, this is the bill we've talked about on the show before. Prairie Plant Systems, call it what you want. It's the medical marijuana pharmaceutical bill. State lawmakers have been pushing this through as quickly as possible. This bill was introduced just 14 days ago, and now it's already in front of the Senate floor. Talk about streamlining. But this here would basically force patients to give up their right to cultivate cannabis at home, and would have them sign on to a whole new system, and then they would be purchasing their cannabis from pharmaceutical companies like Rite Aid and so forth. The cannabis would be produced by big money, basically. This would be a legislated COI, if you will. I mean, these people are coming in from Canada. They're the provider of the Cannabis Health Canada program, which is the provider for Canadian medical marijuana. And just recently, this last year in Canada, this same company took over the program. Up until recently in Canada, you were able to grow your own if you're registered in the Health Canada program for medical marijuana, or you're allowed to have a caregiver grow it for you. In years past, they added in this program through Prairie Plant Systems, and they were able to step in and start providing their cannabis as an alternative to the patient caregiver program. Well, just this last summer, they passed a bill that no longer will patients and caregivers be able to produce their own medication. Now it will only be provided through Prairie Plant Systems. And they have another name. I'm not even going to bother going there. This basically is just a big corporate grab and something that I don't think is in the best interest of patients or caregivers. I don't think it has the interest of the program or the people that are in it.
The reason why it sounds like it's on a fast track to get through our House and Senate here is because probably a lot of legislators want to get the hell out of their office before some kind of scandal breaks, and they want to have a nice doggy bag take home with them. I mean, and money. So I bet there's a lot of kickbacks coming their way when this is coming. If this gets pushed through.
Well, and it's the other thing that's interesting about this is the bill still has a contingency on it. Now I don't know if this is going to stay and remain the same, but the contingency is that federal law changes the federal drug scheduling of marijuana at least out from the Schedule 1 that it currently is in. So it would have to become a Schedule 2 drug or something else. And farther down the line, Schedule 3, 4, 5. But at any rate, I think it's very interesting that this bill is being pushed through so quickly with that contingency in place. Even Senate Minority Leader Gretchen Whitmer stated it is an unusual step for the legislature to act in a case that something that may or may not happen in the federal government. So I mean, this is very interesting how quickly it's been put through. It certainly stinks of lobbying to the greatest extent. I'm not a fan of the bill. I don't think it's something that's going to help people out. I've seen the medication that's produced by this organization, and it's a very limited medication available to the patients. They have a very limited amount of strains to choose from. Their results for the content that is in the medication, i.e. their potency, is very low compared to what's already being put out by caregivers and patients across Michigan. We currently have a number of different testing companies across Michigan that are providing testing for medical cannabis. And the average grade is far above what this Prairie Plant Systems is capable of producing. So I think it's a degradation to patients' medicinal availability.
So to me, I can't. There's no way of justifying it other than there's got to be payola going on, because that's all I can see it. I mean, there's no real issues the way it's being currently administrated. It's being run. I don't see why they have to go to this step. I really don't, and I don't know. I like to get these guys who are who pushing for this in this room and ask them why they feel the need to do this.
Well, one of the big pushers is Senator Richardville, and some of the reasons he is quoted as saying is there are people out there growing things irresponsibly, getting people sick because of it.
Does that happen? Is there any documented cases for that?
I can tell you I see hundreds of patients on a daily basis. We see them down at the Compassion Club, and I have not heard of people getting sick.
So this guy's making statements that are patently probably false about, and
I guarantee you we come in contact with patients and caregivers a lot more than he does.
Yeah, where's it? I'd like to see the ER reports or something like that, or the hospitalization reports, or their doctor reports.
And I'd like
to see them.
We've had, I don't believe they exist, John. We've had testing available down at our Compassion Club for quite some time now through a couple different forms, and I think we're working with our third company now. Okay. And we do have the main, I guess I would say the main push for medical testing is coming from the people who are growing it. They want to use that for informational purposes. They're trying to do research on their own strains. They're trying to improve their growing abilities. It is not coming from patients who are saying, hey, this got me sick, so I don't ever want anything that isn't tested again.
Well, see, I remember reading this in economics classes and stuff. Back in the day when meat processing was going on big in the United States, a lot of people were getting sick because of botulism and stuff and improperly handled meats. But the people who actually pushed for legislation of it largely were people who were in the manufacturing side of that. The people who were the producers of this, because they wanted to be able to shut down their competitors because they had put things in place to guarantee the safety of the meat, whereas the other competitors wouldn't be able to do that because of the economies of scale and because they didn't simply have the money for the capital investment to do that.
Sure.
And they were be able to shut out their smaller competitors. You guys are self-policing.
And that's exactly what I see this bill as doing, is coming in, trying to set up things in the name of safety, standardized testing. They're calling it pharmaceutical grade cannabis. And, I see it as they're saying now that it's going to be a parallel system, that people will have the ability to choose between the current patient caregiver system or going over to this pharmaceutical grade. And that may be the case initially if this were to get passed, but I don't see that being the case in the future down the road. I could see it happening here in Michigan, what's already happened in Canada. And they're also citing things like, well, mold is a serious issue, and it is serious, but we don't have this large call like they're trying to portray it to be, that people are out there dying from having mold or pesticides in their cannabis.
I'm 50 years old. I've been around pot smokers all my entire life. I mean, back then it was really an underground thing. People were growing in their basements or in a closet in the dorm room or something like that. And guess what? Of all that time I've heard people using weed from those sources, I never heard anybody dying from it. Okay, and there was, like, let's face it, they were very dubious, sources. And they'll say it's a surgical grade, almost like it's a medical grade of marijuana. It's almost like watching The Simpsons. Remember when Dr. Hibbert was examining Homer, and he says, "I could hit you over the surgical 2x4." And he pulls off this 2x4. It's wrapped up in a sterile wrapper. It's a surgical 2x4. It's the same. It's a 2x4.
Yeah.
It's got a wrapping over. I mean, that's the same thing about
doesn't have a label on
pharmaceutical stuff. Like this, pharmaceutical grade marijuana. Okay.
Well, this is certainly big business. Prairie Plant Systems, it's reported here, has hired former Michigan State House Speaker Chuck Perrone, to help lobby for this bill. And his comments are the market for this is virtually untapped, and the potential for the product is tremendous. So it's definitely a money grab type of thing here. I think one of the things that the Michigan legislature is missing out on is the money that's already being produced here in the state by the current system, if that's what they want to focus on. We have grow shops around the state of Michigan, not to mention the patients and caregivers who are doing this as well. There's certainly been a large growth for medical marijuana here in Michigan, and I think to just discard that, the revenue, the jobs, the taxes that are being collected from this, I think is a real mistake. And that's something that we really should be pushing for as a group, as a movement, is standing up and saying, well, hey, we're already producing revenue for the state. Here's where it's coming from, showing them, and then being able to stand behind our results and saying, look, we are self-policing. There's already numerous testing facilities across the state, and then we need to also have feedback from patients, because patients are the ones that this is really for, and if they're not able to get different forms of their medication, if they're limited to what exactly is going to be there available for them, I think they're going to be the ones that are going to be have shortcomings in the end.
I mean, this is my opinion, not Jeremy's, but this is my thought. Okay, so I'll just put that disclaimer. I think everybody should just try to see if we could pool money, go up to all these politicians right now who are doing this or pushing for this and say, okay, how much do they offer you? Can we buy you? This is an open auction process. We'll pay you more. Whatever your bid is, we'll give you more, okay? Because you bastards keep on doing this to us. We do something that's initiated by the people, and then you're saying, oh, that's not good enough. You're not professional lawmakers. Of course, we exempt ourselves from all the laws we'd make, but, I'm just sick of it. I mean, this is just, over a non-issue, essentially. This is a non-issue.
Well, and it's the thing is that it's all about the money. There's just no question about it.
Well, yeah, but they're saying, it's like, like the cry of a tyrant, it's for the good of the people or it's for the safety of the people. That's always a justification. Okay, well, how can they justify this? Many of these people are smoking pot on their own time, yet trying to force us to live, laws we have to report every second up to them. But they're doing far worse illegal drugs, and they admit to it. Yet we're supposed to be circumspect in front of them. They work for us, but we have to answer to them. That angers me. Sorry,
I hear you.
Editorial shot.
I hear you. It's a tough thing to deal with, and it's definitely big money behind this. It's something that's difficult for a lot of individuals. You have probably close to 50,000 caregivers in this state. We have well over 100,000 patients in the state, and trying to protect their program on an individual level is something that's nearly impossible to do, simply because they're all just scattered about. But a company that has access to resources and money to step in, just like Prairie Plant Systems is doing here, and all of a sudden, boom, they're able to get a bill pushed through, lickety split, get on there what they want, hire themselves a lobbyist, start padding some pockets, and next thing you know, they've got a bill passed through, or at least trying to get a bill passed through, that isn't even possible yet. But boy, oh boy, they are ready to go the second that they get the okay. And I think that there's a little bit of a wolf behind the sheep here, in the sense that if they were able to get this bill passed, what's to say that they don't just go ahead and say, well, we don't need it to be rescheduled federally. We're going to go ahead and pass it through right now. Prairie Plant Systems is already ready to go, start producing. We can do what we want here in this state. It'd be a change of tune, from the Attorney General standpoint, but this is something that we have to be concerned about. And I think with the fervency that it's being passed through in the Senate, it's something that should call our attention, no doubt. Got a couple other stories on here I just wanted to share with you. It's kind of interesting here. This is from tokeofthetown.com. You're talking about spending money on the wrong things, and it's got a story here that the Ohio police has spent $500,000 last year arresting 27 people for marijuana. This is the state's flyover program, where they fly over, fields and so on, trying to find marijuana plants that are growing illegally. They were able to destroy last year over 20,000 plants. But I guess the question is this a waste of time? We've got increase in heroin abuse across the country, especially in mid-America or in the Midwest here. Prescription pills being abused constantly, and yet we're spending $500,000 to weed out the weed.
That's like, they wanted to avoid all those problems at the convenience stores and people got the munchies. So by doing that, you eliminate the source of weed, and you got a very calm and orderly, events going on at the convenience stores, picking up those munchies, I mean, they save themselves. The thing is, Mayor Bloomberg's on board for this because he wants to shut people down from, seeking out the big gulps and sugary drinks and stuff that he doesn't think you should have in your diet. So, I mean, it's a nanny state. That's all this is about, is being the nanny state.
Well, they're cracking the whip.
Why do we tolerate this? We elect new people, and then they turn out to be just the same as the other a-holes we yanked out of office. Why do we permit this?
I think a lot of this goes back to the court case that we had in the Supreme Court, where we changed corporations being recognized as individuals. I think that has to deal with it. The lobbying has to deal with it. As long as we allow big money to control our government, I think this is a cyclical thing that's going to continue. Because there is no incentive for politicians to listen to individuals. The vote doesn't matter as much anymore, and so now they're able to just simply go where the money is from. And when we have voter turnouts less than 10% of the population, I think that kind of speaks to the truth of it. How are people supposed to be listened to when they don't show up to vote? And I think that that's something that has to be addressed. We have term limits now, which certainly makes an impact. But a lot of these folks are lifelong politicians. They just bounce from one office to the next.
And another thing is too, like that one guy you just stated, he was like he was a former politician who got hired to be a lobbyist for that group that's trying to push, that group from Canada.
Bill Perricone.
Yes, I mean those guys constantly do that. I mean, and it's the politicians on the face. You think, well, we're changing faces, so we're going to have a change. But the bureaucrats beneath them and the people, what they do is they use their connections to establish, a farther reach than they would have ever had as being a legislator.
And that is true. A lot of times you have people bouncing from, either they're a CEO of a company, next thing you know, they're a politician, and then from there they go to be a lobbyist. So it's just a roundabout thing. They hire their family to get on their campaigns, keep it going, the family thing. This is just something that our country really needs to address. All right, but moving on here. Got a couple things I want to see. Let's see here. We'll go back to Canada, talking about this here. This is the same company that's moving in here to Michigan under the name of Canamed, and it's a subsidiary of Prairie Plant Systems. Same type of thing here, and they were the first. Guess what? The first company to be approved under Health Canada's new rules, receiving a license on September 19th, just this year. And they're saying that basically a lot of people feared that this was going to be a monopoly. However, there's two other licenses that were given out last week in Canada. The Peace Naturals Project, a company based in Ontario, and Metrum Limited, another Toronto, Ontario company. Basically, these two other companies have been licensed now by the Canadian government to go ahead and produce cannabis for patients. We'll have to see how this works out. So it's not a monopoly. Prairie Plant Systems isn't the only company in the game. There may be others that could apply for the program in Canada. And, according to the way the bill is written here in Michigan, same thing could happen here. However, right now this is still way too far in the future to tell. One more thing I want to share with you. This is treatment that was approved. This is for actually a cannabis treatment for brain cancer, and it will begin its first human trials. This is being done by the pharmaceutical giant GW, same company that makes Bayer aspirin. And they're using Sativex, which is the oral spray form of cannabis. It uses the whole plant matter, so it doesn't necessarily have just THC. It also has CBD as well. And it comes in an equal ratio, for those of you that are unaware. So when Sativex is used as an equal ratio of CBDs and THC, and this is being used in a preclinical study, and they're trying to find out if this is going to have an effect on brain tumors, or brain cancer, if you will. So interesting thing here. Director of Research Development, Dr. Stephen Wright, said in a press release, they're very excited about moving the compound into further human study and the prospects of cannabinoids as new anti-cancer treatments. It's the GW's first study of cannabinoids as a potential treatment to inhibit tumor growth. We've been saying here for a long time on this show and through quite a few different sources that cannabis has the ability to fight and kill cancer cells. This is something that's been proven over and over again through other types of trials, and now we're finally going to get it seen, or finally get it done by a large company. So this will be kind of interesting if they come up with the same results. I'm sure they will. We've seen people use the Phoenix Tears, or Rick Simpson oil, as it's referred to, for a number of different types of cancers. Not just the type here that they're referring to in the study, but also skin cancers, pancreatic cancers, so on and so forth. Is it the cure for cancer? I don't know. That's something that we have yet to have proven, but I think that it definitely does have an effect. We've seen it performed over and over again, that the use of CBD and THC directly on cancer cells does have an effect on those cells and stopping them from growth and actually killing them. So if GW's able to produce something here using Sativex, as far as results, produce results, well, that certainly would be a positive thing. I mean, I think trying to see cancer be healed is a good thing, no matter where it's coming from. I think the fact that we have to wait for a big company to tell us that it actually works is kind of silly, when we're seeing people have anecdotal evidence constantly that this is a beneficial treatment. I think it's really important that people do more studies on this. I think we do need to find out, what is a recommended dosage, a delivery method, so on and so forth, that's going to be effective for cancer patients. I think it's certainly a lot better way to go than the typical chemotherapy, radiation type of treatments that are given out now. And it certainly is going to be a lot better for the patients that are using this. I mean, can you imagine your alternative? You can have chemotherapy, or you can have some cannabis. Which would you prefer for treating your cancer? I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. And it's interesting to me that we've approved cannabis throughout many states here in the United States for alleviating the symptoms of what people have when they go through cancer treatment. So a lot of times people are saying, okay, well, we'll go ahead and get cannabis, and we're going to use that as a way to overcome the nausea that's associated with chemotherapy and some of the other types of things that go along with the cancer treatment. But actually using the cannabis for treating the cancer, that's a little bit farther research than what we've dealt with before. I think that it may be the golden key for unlocking this cure to cancer that everyone is searching for. Like I said, we've seen it kill cancer cells. There's been various studies and reports that have come out in regards to that. And this one here being performed by GW certainly will get a lot more credence given to it, being that it's being performed by such a large corporation, a pharmaceutical corporation at that. And I think there's been numerous studies you can check me on, including studies done at the University of Harvard and so on, that do show cannabis is effective for treating cancer, and not just one type, but many different types of cancer. I think we need to look into this more, and I hope that people can continue to use their own treatment methods at their will. And we've seen too many people come through with positive results to say, well, this has to be approved by a corporation before we'll be able to use it. The Rick Simpson oil is an amazing substance there. It's a concentrated form of cannabis, and it's very easy to produce. Someone can make this in their own home, and something like this is amazing for someone that's dealing with something that's considered to be life-threatening, like cancer. Definitely like to have more of this going on, and curing cancer is such a big thing. There's so many people that die from that disease every day, and I think that it's unnecessary that people are going through these horrible treatments and having to die from this disease when there's a cure right there in front of them. You just have to reach out and check it out. You guys should look up Rick Simpson Oil or Phoenix Tears for more information on that. You can also read this article here that I'm quoting from on leafscience.com. So check that out if you would. That's about it for the news I got for today. I don't want to rant anymore on political stuff. It gets kind of tiresome going over that. We're dealing with the same things constantly.
Well, I actually did more of ranting than you did. So you just did the reporting. I did the ranting.
I don't mind your rants, John. I think they're well founded.
My ranting gets raves. No.
There we go. And I think really the biggest thing is I hope that it encourages you to get involved. A call to your state senator or state representative is well worth the time. Getting feedback from you still counts, even though you may not be big money or a lobbyist working for some corporation. You still count as an individual. This is still a democracy, even though sometimes you may not think it feels like it. It is. And, all of our veterans didn't pay for that lightly. And I think our freedoms should be utilized. And the best way to say thank you, I think, is to stand up and to, actually participate in your country. And so I encourage you to do that. Make a phone call, send an email, whatever you have time to do. But make your voice known and let them know what your feelings are when it comes to medical cannabis. I think that it's time that we stop having corporations run this country and start listening to some individuals. That would be my hope. So, but at any rate, appreciate you listening to my rants as well. This has been the Genesee County Compassion Club show. Thank you for joining me this week, and I hope to see you back here next week on flinttalkradio.com. Again, check us out on ustream.tv. Just look us up under Flint Talk Radio. And John, thanks for being here with me. I appreciate it as well. Guys, have a great week. We'll see you next.